my mom raised all of us, and I think I'm like the seventh oldest in the family. And before my dad died, he was a roses, like you got your lady a dozen roses at a certain time of the year. Well, that's a business I grew up on a farm is learning how to do roses. And once you ever learn, you never forget. I know how to take a rose and make it turn red, make it turn blue, yellow, or white, whatever. That's what I grew up doing. But out of the 11 kids my family had, I could work in rose business pretty good until lunchtime. And after lunch, I would always feel like I had these directions. I go out and push them. And I get on my back and I see that plane up there, and I was saying, one day, it's gonna be me. And when I was in the 5th grade, we started playing flag football. And I had 2 brothers that was a year younger than myself, Tim and Steve. They were outside linebackers, and I was a middle linebacker. So we was raised in the country. We got bused to the city to school. And when it started football, we always played tackle football out there in the country where we used tackle football. And we got into 5th grade, my coach started this flag football. But we didn't want to do the flags. My brother like, we wanted to tackle. So the coach came over and said, Campbell, if y'all do that one more time, I can put y'all all 3 off the team. You gotta get that flag. This is not tackle football. So that was my journey starting off and learning about football. When I got to be in the 9th grade, that's when I figured out that God had given me something that he didn't give Eric or Michael. I had the it. And for many, many years, nobody knew that I knew that except for myself. So that started out in the 9th grade. We won the championship in the city. And I think that's what started my role in wanting to be an athlete. And as I got older, I started watching certain guys that had played and gonna play pro football, but I didn't want to be like them. I want to be better. So what I did is I worked day in and day out to be in the best. I never knew nothing about the Hall of Fame, excuse me that I'm here, but I guess as part of my second year in pro football, I started hearing people talk about it. It was good. I maybe one day it'll be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe this. So that's when I started learning about the Hall of Fame. And I went down to Texas, the University of Texas, and Barry Switzer and Darryl Royal was 2 of the guys that recruited me the best. But my mother was telling me in one year, don't you take nothing from my people because that is not right. No matter what that coach said, don't you take it. That was Barry Switzer in my ear telling me what he was going to give me and come for the football to Oklahoma. And he didn't know my mother was telling me just the opposite. And here comes Darryl Royal. He just says my mother was an Ann. And Earl can do this at the university. If he wants to get an education, we apply this and do that. And I end up getting a bachelor's degree in speech communication. But back to Barry. Barry Switzer was, I think he thought he had the right language to recruit minorities. But when he bumped into me, I was one of the guys that was different, that wanted to do the right things, not the other way. I mean, I didn't have a car that would have been nice. I didn't have the best of clothes that would have been nice. But I had one thing nobody knew, and that was that I wanted to be the best. I wanted it. And the coach that recruited me to come to Texas wasn't Darryl Royer. This guy was named Ken Dabbs. And he says, there's a certain hotel in Tower that we pass all the time. He says, I spent more time in that hotel trying to recruit Earl Campbell than anybody. That was my mission. Darryl Royer told me no matter what, give Earl Campbell. I came down to the University of Texas, and my mom, of course, didn't have luggage suitcases like we tote now. Like I tote back around the Louis Vuitton tote bag, nothing like that. But it was a grocery chain in our city called Brookshire Grocery Stores. That's where she shopped. So when I got down to UT, I can remember seeing a truck with a big old trailer behind it, and I see these people running in and out of the dorm. That was what was saying. So when it came time to me to get my clothes, I had 3 bags. Books to work, grocery stores from Mother Shop. So there was one guy on the team, and his name was Rick Ingram. We were best of friends. He stood up and he would tell guys, I know one guy on our football team, I packed his clothes quicker than anybody. So they would say, who did it, Rick? Earl. He had 300 bags. But I didn't realize at the time, as long as I wanted to be the best, that was part of wanting to be the best too, because you didn't have what other children, kids have, but yet you still, those are my teammates, and man, I really did go to college just to be a football player. But while I was there, a couple of days, I got into speech course, and this lady says, it was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday course. She says, I want everybody to name the alphabets that ends in C. I want them to give a speech tomorrow or Wednesday when you come back to class. So I got up in the class, and I thought I did a pretty good job just telling them what running back she did. So after class, she says, I want everybody to leave class except Mr. Campbell. So she got to talking to me, and she was asking me this and that, and how serious I was about the class. And if you want to learn how to do this, I'll show you. So after football practice, some days I would go back into the office, and then I would practice on doing what I'm doing right now, talking in front of people. So I got a bachelor's degree in speech communication, but when it came to football, I was just different. And nobody had to tell me that, but I knew that. I never told anybody about it. So when it came time to, do certain things in football in Texas, I could do everything pretty good, except for one thing. I could not lift weights. I just didn't, it didn't fit me. All I did was run, flexibility, and I didn't like all that weight room stuff and all that. I really didn't just work out. But somewhere in that Coach Dabbs, one day I asked him, I think it was about my sophomore year, I said, Coach Dabbs or something? He said, yeah. I said, can you give me a film on this guy named Jim Brown? He said, what? I said, yeah, that running back named Jim Brown. He said, that man's older than you. What do you want? I said, that's what I want to kind of be like, so I need that film. So he gave me a 9mm camera that we would run back and forth, and I would put it up on the wall in the dorm. We didn't have a thing like that, but it was just regular paint on the walls, and I would run that thing back and forth on the gym. One day I decided that's what I want to be. I want to be that guy. It takes a lot of hard work, but that's what I wanted to do. And it didn't matter to what I had to do to get there, I wanted to do it. And after I got down to the Houston Oilers, that bumped up. I mean, I am not sure how much football that man knew, but I know one thing, he knows how to keep a group of guys with egos bigger than Texas together, including myself. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, yeah, I had an ego about wanting to be the best that I couldn't wait to show 'em. But I worked in all seasons to be the best. And every day I worked at it. I mean, I did not fool myself. I mean, I wanted to do it. And all these people was telling me this and that. That didn't really matter to me. What mattered to me was what was in my heart. I know that I want to work harder than that guy in Chicago when I'm 34. I know that guy in Dallas, number 33, Tony Dorsett. And I tell you a story when we used to play like Cleveland, Cincinnati, New York, California, when the stewardess on the plane would get the lunch out to everybody, with everybody on the plane, I'd say, come here. I said, let me ask you a question. She said, what? I said, do you mind going up there asking the pilot to call Dallas to find out how yours Tony Dorsett had today? He was in my state and I didn't want him not to do me. And sometimes he did better than I did, but 90% of the time, I had that Russian tag. It was an ego between me and him. And now, to this day, man, they had the best of friends. I have a ranch in Texas where I'm from in Tyler. I used to work on that ranch. And I told that man on the ranch, one day, I'm gonna make it, I come back and buy this ranch. Oh, sure. One day in 1979, I was with Walt Garrison in his town outside of Dallas called Louisville. And I dipped that skull and we was shooting a commercial. So I called my mother and said, hey, I'm in Dallas and we need something, you know. I'm right here working on Walt. She just called me. She said, you know what, Earl? I said, what? She said, Mr. Flynn dropped by and he told me to tell you that he's going to sell that ranch to you and only for this amount you own. I said, Mom, would you tell him I worked till Monday morning till I finish? That's how I ended up buying the ranch that I used to work on. There are a lot of, in my situation, there's great things. You know, the hardest thing I would say about being Earl Campbell to me is to listen to that guy read all this stuff. You know, it just kind of embarrassed me a little bit. But that goes along too with being blessed. People like you that's sitting out there in this audience, y'all had a lot to do in being the best because you people you know, we come here to the Hall of Fame once a year. And to me, I can't believe to this day, even though I only do it in name one, I cannot believe the way you people act up here in Canton, Ohio, for the new class to get in, or for the guys like myself that's already been in. Just a lady told me something. She says, Earl, can I tell you something? I said, yeah. Well, we was at the hall over at the hotel. She says, you know my husband? I said, yeah, I know he's all right. She said, well, I just want to know, is it like this with you? When you come here and, you know, you can just say you want this, you want that. They got somebody to go get it, right? I said, yeah, whatever. She says, well, my husband, he has to get broken down because when I go back home with him, he stay wanting this, wanting that. I said, hey, get up and do your own shit. So in saying that, I'm just trying to express myself to you people. How welcome I'll make the Hall of Fame that's getting in, whether it's the new class, whether it's the old class. You people do a great job in making people like myself feel at home. I really don't have I wasn't a guy that did a lot of talking. The guy asked me on the radio yesterday, says, hey, Earl, who would talk the most trash to you? Who did you talk trash to? I said, I really didn't. I just thought that the way I play football speaks for itself. There is nothing in this world like playing football or playing sports. When that individual in the 9th grade said in a microphone, "That's number 20, Earl Campbell." It's like they jumped into my system and I loved it, I liked it. There ain't nothing I would do for that. And the more and more I went along, even in college, trying to be the best, when I heard that PA system, that guy said that, that was like he put something in my vein to make me want to be the best. To be the best is not that hard, but you have to. I remember one time, I think it was about my third year of marriage. Me and this lady, we've been together since the 9th grade. And she did not go to the University of Texas and all that stuff. She stayed in town working as a nurse. And I was down in Austin playing football. So that lady and I now, we have 2 boys, Christian and Tyler, and we have 7 grandchildren. But that lady got in our system in the 9th grade, and I just knew that's what I wanted. And I decided probably after that third MVP, I think it was 78, 79, 80, I decided I'm going to have something. I better get this moment behind me because these women in Houston doesn't play for her. So my wife and I have been married and together since 1980, but we've been together since the 9th grade. And if there is somebody that could knock that off that pedestal, just no matter what, she could just knock me down to it. Yeah, we've been together since the 9th grade, so I guess you got that right. But that's all I have. I don't know if y'all want to ask me any questions, but maybe I can answer. Yes, sir.
You said you put it here. You said you spent time watching Jim Brown film. What did you see in that film that you took to the NFL?
Well, one thing the way he ran was one thing, but when you tackled him, he didn't do like everybody else. He didn't run back to the house. He just kind of walked back to it. When he got in there, I guess he would hear what's going on, then he'd come back and raise hell again. But that's one of the things that stuck with me the most. I can remember that Royal who was playing, gonna play Oklahoma in that game up there by nowhere this season, Texas, Oklahoma, and Dallas. So Derek called me over to he said, "Earl, come here." I said, he said, "Do you know that we got this much time to run a play, call a play? We don't have time for you walking back to our So the next game, I really did. I tried my best. So he called me over the sideline again, going, "Campbell, what's wrong?" I said, "Coach, I'm just telling you, I just don't seem to be able to run back to the house." He said, "Well, you get back out there and do something, somehow get in that house." So I learned that from Jim Brown too. Not, you could put a psyche on them because they thought you was tired and worn out. You just wait till the next play started. And Jim Brown was a very interesting human being because him and I got to be friends. And I don't know if y'all remember the time that this gang thing out in California got out of whack. Well, I was in California and I was at this hotel, so I called Jim. I said, "Hey, Jim, what's happening?" He said, "Nothing, I'm just dropping in this and that." I said, "Well," he said, "Why don't you go into the house?" I said, "Okay, I'll be up there." He said, "Yeah, I sent a car to pick you up." Went down the stairs. And there was a Pinto. There were 4 guys in that Pinto. But the kicker is when I got in there, I was scared as hell because these 4 guys had guns. And they had AKs lying across the lap. And we got up to go to Jim's house. When you get closer, like at the beginning of the driveway, was a guy with an AK. There was a guy in the middle, and we got to the house. I was saying, what are you into, man? That's why I'm working with this gang group out here in California, trying to get them to work out and do the right things. And I was right there, I was with those guys, Crips. I said, what are you doing? He said, yeah. So one time he called me, he said, Earl Campbell. I said, yeah. He said, I've been in town this day, so you coming to Austin? That's why I never see you, I gotta go see her tomorrow. I said, really? He said, yeah. So we got in the truck and I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm working with that gang of people you met out in California. And each tomorrow, each time, give me so much money that I can help them. And I gotta help the Crips up there. And Ann Richards was the lady that was the governor at the time. Jim went in and got that money and came out and took it back to the airport. But an incredible guy, I mean, sometimes I think that he was misunderstood by the life he lived, I guess. I didn't know a lot about, what goes on, but he was just such a great man with people, and he did so much, and I guess there's no doubt, we all know that when you do something good, there's not really praying that much, but when you do bad, everybody knows about it.
Hey,
Yes.
Earl, glad to see you. Who gave you the name Tyler Rose?
Remember I told you about at UT and I went in the dorm and I unpacked my clothes, this guy said quicker than anybody. That guy name was Rick Ingram. He was my left guard. From the time I came to Texas to the time I left. And Rick and I still good friends to this. So one day in the dressing room, this guy was going to interview me after the game. And Rick always was kind of loud mouth. So he says, he came back and said, you tell him, Tyler Rose. Tell him just how it is. I said, what? Somehow Rick found out the nickname I had. And he says the way he found it out was from his mother because his mother was retired. When I started understanding a little bit about the public figures and all that stuff, there was a guy named Sam Duncan. He really owned the Rose Farm. So the Campbells worked for him. He had a daughter named Sandy Duncan. And Sandy Duncan was a big movie star in California. She was from town. And that Tyler Rose and all that, that's how I got his nickname. Because I grew up in the rose business. In my hometown, if you give a lady a dozen roses, like for a birthday, an anniversary, she a thorn. She rather peep her eye. Because a dozen roses, you go drive down the street, you see 50 roses of red, 100 roses. So it was just like that, the rose business. But that's how I learned. Who knew more about the Tyler Rose than anything? Rick Beam. I tell you another funny story. I had 34 and a half inches thighs when I played football. And remember I told you I know that the weights all I did was run. And flexibility. So Daryl's wife, which her name is Eve, I always had trouble in college. The reason nobody really heard that much about me in my junior year, because I tore my hamstring loose from the cheek of my butt, running. So Daryl's wife tells him that I got a suggestion why Earl could put in those hamstrings, what she need to do about it. So this guy came down, said recruited me to come to the University of Texas, shows up at my locker with about 5 boxes, real big, not that very big. And I asked him, what is that? He said, wow, I think this is something that's going to help you keep and put a hamstring all the time. And what that something was was a lady's girl. I'm sure ladies in here know what I'm talking about. It was a lady's girdle. And it came from my waist down to the end of my kneecap. Now you picture me trying to put on a lady's girdle in front of all these teammates. And if you would look very closely at whatever picture you have of me running football, you can see that I got that lady's girdle though. I never had hamstring problems since. And I wore a lady's girdle from my junior year until I quit pro football. And that is something that's hard to do in front of a group of guys. And I got chosen my senior year captain of the football team. So once again, you ain't go out and make a big deal with Rick. And Rick is saying, hey, come on, we gotta go out there. I said, no, let me tell you, Rick, why don't you go out there and replace me and kick out Edgar, get put in the corner and stuff. Because I got to massage my bum and all that stuff. I had to put all that on my thighs, try to massage my thighs and get loosened up. So I did not have time to go out there and flip over the corner. So I had that girdle on and, oh man, it took care of not putting hamstrings. But that is a hell of a deal to do in front of a bunch of men. And every Saturday, they did 2 or 3 prayer in my locker. Because sometimes I would warm out before halftime. And the halftime I had to change over to get another one. And if you see any picture of myself, you see my socks over there at the end of the corner of my knee. But you see it white thing insulated girl I wore. It sure took care of the hamstring problem.
Yeah, Mr. Campbell, I'm so glad I get to speak to you. When I was a little boy, I was like you. My father was killed when I was a baby. But anyway, my mother, she had a hard way to go, and we went everywhere. We were like gypsies and stuff, and I was in gangs myself, and in Chicago and here in this town. But I had a couple of heroes when I was a little boy. One of them was Babe Stern, and he was a part of the Police Boys Club, and he took guys like me and guys like you growing up. He taught us stuff like boxing, different things that we weren't used to, because when you live in the streets and you ain't got no man telling you what to do, things are rough. So, and there was, I love football, but I love basketball, and the Globetrotters were my heroes. So I wanted to tell you, Meadowlark Lemon was a guy who looked after fellas like me and you without no father. And we had someone to look up to, because in this world, if you ain't got a father or grandfather, you know, my mother was rough. My mother was tougher than most dudes I ever met in my life. But she had to be. Growing up where I grew up, the hood ain't an easy place to be. But I'm going to tell you something. What you said about your mom and the roses was cool, because that was my grandmother. She helped raise me like a lot of us dudes. But I'm going to tell you something. A man like you, there's some young fellas, these streets are rough. We live in an area, you see all of us dressed up in pretty good clothes and stuff, but it ain't far from the hood. You got to go down a little ways, but it's here and it's everywhere. And little kids that ain't got no man, they can hear stuff what you went through and became what you are and have been.
Yeah,
God bless you.
I know. Thank you. Yesterday, and since I've been here, the first day I spoke to drug and alcohol people. Yeah. Why did I do that? Because good old Earl got hooked up in that field. Yeah. And I was the guy that, you know, in the country, I guess, and God bless me, I never went to a doctor, none of this. The only doctor I ever seen was the guy that gives you that little physical before football season. So that's the only guy I had been to was a doctor. When I got to Austin, I used to live in Houston, I always used bathrooms in Austin. And about my fourth year, I started having back problems. And I always had a hamstring problem because my leg was so big. So a lot of people say that's where it came from. But flexibility, I did a lot. So get back to this drug and alcohol needs. I got hooked up with some doctors in Austin. And before I knew it, just like that, I had 7 of them. And I remember one Friday being in the hospital. So this doctor tells the nurse, right in front of me, I'm laying in bed, Earl, give him anything he wants. And I'm saying, no, hell, man, I'm sure what that's what one for. What he was talking about was those painkillers. Before you know it, I got hooked on those things. And with blood tequila, look by wife, and before you know it, I was out and running. So let me tell you something. I took so many Xanax. You know what that is? The corporation hires me to be exposed. And make a long story short, my wife, the little lady I've been with since 9th grade, and these 2 boys we got, they was off in college and whatever. So make a long story short, she tried to get me to help for that, but I thought I was too good for that. So she sicked the lawyers on me. And one day I was at home, I was trying to get ready dressed to go to the office. I could not get this pants to fit right for some reason. She's in the bed, and I'm saying, you hear that car inside? This is the boys. Oh no, it's not the boys. I said, yeah, I know that car, I know the sign of it. Oh no. He just stares, come up and stares. I said, that's the boys, I know how they walk. Oh no, Earl, it's not them. They came and sit down at the foot of the bed. So Christian tells Tyler, who's the baby guy, you tell him, Christian. You tell him, Tyler. No, you tell him, Christian. No, Tyler, you tell him. I said, tell me what? He said, Dad, we done some checking. And we're not gonna let you throw it all away doing pain pills. I saw the doctor gave them to me. So we done done much checking. I mean, I was going to CVS, I drinking water and get those painkillers. And before you know it, here I am hooked on them. And there's nothing in this world like you telling your 2 boys the whole life they grew up around that we do not use drugs and alcohol in this house. Because them same 2 kids that you raised and been teaching has to break you down and tell you. So it goes like this. They live at the foot of the bed and they say what they have to say. Dad, you can have a great weekend. You can do whatever you want to. And come Monday morning, Mom gonna pack that bag and we take you to rehab. Oh man, no. The hardest thing in my life that I ever had to do was in that car, because I was going to the barber shop. Fix that rear mirror to the right of that man. I'm saying, holy hell, if I messed up now. And I embarrassed him. I'll never forget that as long as I live. Because it was around the time that Michael Jackson died. I stayed at rehab, I'm messing around and having fun for 2 weeks. And one Saturday morning, I was outside, it's a pretty day like today, kind of cool. I was outside with the rest of the people that was in rehab. And they said, hey, Earl, come on in. I said, no, I think I just sat out here for a little bit. while I was sitting out there, something happened that I got off my ass and I got serious about being in rehab. And I told myself, I'm gonna stay here till I get it. 40-some days later, I got it. And I'm ready to go home.
Amen.
I came home, messing around, embarrassed, really embarrassed. What are the neighbors gonna say? What are the people in Texas gonna say? People all over the world is gonna know about me doing this. Then I got to the point, what do you want to do, Earl? How do you want to handle this? I got myself enough nerves to go in the bathroom and look in that big mirror. I said, God, please.
Yeah.
Take this Budweiser, take this tequila, take this Xanax, take that Tylenol, take this away from me. And to this day, and I think that Tuesday, I spoke to the rehab, and I think that day was the 11th. That was my birthday. I was 17 years trying to tell other people about what this would do for your life.
Yeah.
And it's not something to be embarrassed about. In our country, I think, we try to hide a lot of things that people don't want to get into and be so proud. I mean, I was so proud I didn't want nobody to know, I didn't want the neighbors to know, but I wanted to say so somebody had to find out, right? So I had this guy, I said, oh, what are you doing? He said, I go to this church over there at 12 o'clock every day. I said, what are you doing over there? He said, that's the alcohol, drug center. I said, what are they doing there? Well, I said, if I come in there, they know who I am. You know, yeah. They gotta know who you are. So my first shot, I get over there, and I'm looking at all these people coming into the room. It was happy, the sun talking. Came time for me, and yes, hi, I'm Earl, I'm an alcoholic and drug. And I believe by me being in that position, being able to talk to people and let people know that it's not something to be ashamed about. It's something that happened in life and you need help for.
Amen.
And since I've been here, that was one of the people I talked to. A lot of people in our country, I think they put a stigma with everything, you know, like being a great football player. That's one thing. Being a drug or a rehab person, and you got a family that's depending on you, and you got to talk to them not to do this and do that, but yet you doing it. I think the great thing was when my boys came in, put me in that rehab. It was hard. I didn't want to be there. But it's something that I'm not ashamed of. It's something that happens in life. And because you got help for it, now you have somebody else.
Amen.
So that's what I spend
Yeah.
most of my time with.
Amen.
Now is rehab clinics, talk to people in rehab centers and people that see you on the airplane, canines or something. And so, yeah, what is it? How did you handle it? Handle what? You know that stuff you was doing. So, yeah, you know, like that drug and alcohol. Oh, yeah, I do handle that. So I got up and I did something about it. I do not think that if I would have kept going on drug and rehab and the pain pills, I would not think I would have been here today. It's amazing to me that kind of like football, you know, you get to hang around people that want to be something special, you know. You have a chance to read about somebody special. In my case, it was a guy named Jim Brown.
Yeah.
And a guy named Tony Dorsett, who we best of friends. You know, you get away from those people, you get sucked in with these people. Going to happy hour, oh, days I couldn't wait to Falcon come. I used to talk about like right there in my office. You know, that's not what a person supposed to be. But being able to get help for it and be able to express yourself and helping other people. And the one I did here in Canton, that was great. I really enjoyed it. I think most of y'all would know it. This place I spoke at was a rehab. The rehab center is what a hospital for mentally ill. It's a golf course, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Down Massillon.
Huh?
Down in Massillon down there.
Yeah, y'all understand. You know what it is. Yeah. This is how I spoke to the gentlemen.
Amen.
You have time for a couple more?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good to see you, Earl. I wanted to share with you that 1967 68, I played football at Texas A&I University in Gainesville, Texas for Gil Stanley. And while I was there, I got a chance to go and look at the Astrodome. And I tell you, how did you feel playing in the eighth wonder of the world? What was the most carries you had in a game? And what was the hardest hit you ever took in pro football?
Back to the Astrodome. When I was in college, they had a bowl called the Blue Bunny Bowl. And Fred Akers was the coach at University of Texas my senior year. We played in the Blue Bunny Bowl in the Astrodome. But I had experience playing in the Astrodome. My first time was when I was in senior high school. We won the state championship. We played in the Astrodome. That was an unbelievable place. I could not believe it at first. And the actual turf, I was like, this here just wasn't no pad up on it, you just fall on the ground. That was just something they covered the ground with, because next week they're gonna have a rodeo in there. And yet they said, you gotta run on this playing football. It wasn't like where I come from, the University of Texas, it kind of had a little cushion on it. No, they're national, that's the worst field in the world. Astrodome and these. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, I'm just curious, you mentioned you didn't care for lifting weights. What do you attribute your physical development to? I mean, how did you get so strong otherwise?
I think it was a God-given talent and ability. I honestly believe God gave me something He didn't give Johnny down the street. I could do it pretty good. And I just worked on it a little bit up there in Tyler, To grow roses, it's got to be in the sand. Roses, you got to have sand, kind of like on the beach. But it's nowhere near as pretty as a beach growing roses. So I think by running in that sand and always training, I just never did lift weights, but you think like hauling hay on the ranch and doing all that stuff. I guess I did lift weights in a way, because throwing a bale of hay is not easy. So I did stuff like that.
I noticed the Billy Goat there on your T-shirt. Could you give some significance to that? I've never seen anyone brave enough to wear a Billy Goat.
There's no doubt that I went to the University of Texas, and it's no doubt until this day, they think the best running back that ever came to the University of Texas is Earl Campbell. Even though there's Ricky Williams who won the Heisman as well, but the real guy is Earl. So I have a guy that travels with me, and he's my best friend. We do everything. He also the barber of my hair. So we started selling this paraphernalia of Earl Campbell, and before the game at UT in Austin, we had this place where there's 10,000 people gonna come to this So this guy had me on a tech over there, and Sherman is back there selling it paraphernalia with the gold and everything. So this how I got to be Sherman came up with the logo of the gold. And I guess that represents number 20, and I used to be number 20 in college. I'll tell you a funny story. That guy in Dallas named Tony Dorsett, when he came out of college, he was a cowboy, so he was raising hell up there about his jersey. So somebody else had number 33, that was that man jersey, Tony wanted that number 33. So somehow he makes a deal with this guy on the team, and I think he sold it for 20 grand. So that was a big time story in Texas of how Tony Dorsett got number 20, number 33. So here come me. Now next year Tony wins the Heisman 76. I win the Heisman in 77. I get drafted by the Houston Oilers, Nobody had mentioned that to me about number 20 or nothing. So Bum Phillips had me out back. We was talking. He drafted me. And I don't think Bum Phillips know my name is Earl Campbell. Bum Phillips know my name is EC. He says, EC, come here. I said, yes, sir. He said, you know, oh, so-and-so got that jersey number 20. I said, yeah, his name was Bill Carey. Turns out, I said, yeah, so what? He said, you know, we're going to get that number for you. I said, no, Bum. I said, listen, that's that man's number. Let him keep it. He says, well, you see what we're going to do about it. So we came in the back door, and this hamper thing looked like that. In the dressing room, this guy got 4 wheels. He pushed it down, and guys put their uniform in there about how they want to wash and stuff. So that same hamper is there when you have to pick up your clothes that you washed. And these here was still warm. And Bumper reached up in there. He said, how about that now? Hit me all in my face. And I got it, and I looked at it. I said, oh yeah, that's cool. That's my number. So I got 34. And I kept about 20 grand in my pocket, but all the guys on the team lost their money because they thought I was going to get carried or something. Because I was a high shot, Heisman winner, so I know the deal with Tony did.
Thank you, Earl. We appreciate you being here.